Good evening and welcome to the Monday edition of First Alert Weather Now. I'm meteorologist Corey Thompson, and we will take you through the next few days here around eastern Iowa, which does involve some things of note, although fortunately not a lot. Things are going to stay pretty quiet, and that will help for Christmas travelers. We'll also have your forecast for fun. Still a lot going on this week, as well as a look back at some Christmases past. But first, what you need to know as you step outside this evening is that continued quiet weather. We have seen clouds continue to expand across the TV9 viewing area. We're going to see that continue as we go through the nighttime hours. Gray skies are likely to settle in for a while. Now, underneath those clouds overnight and tomorrow night too, we could see a little bit of patchy fog develop. That's really our only wrinkle in the forecast as we head into the Christmas holiday. After the holiday is when things could turn a little wetter, but the good news is most of those key travel times tomorrow, Wednesday, Thursday, all looking to be in pretty decent shape. A view of the satellite and radar here across the state of Iowa shows those gray skies expanding. These are low clouds, and that's why it's going to help to trap some of that moisture we have near the ground. Now, we don't have a ton, so it's not an obvious setup for fog, but we can't rule out some of that starting to develop. A view from our Iowa City cam, though, shows good visibility at this hour. Temperatures are otherwise in the 30s. Areas where the clouds settled in first, you have not moved much since this afternoon, but places like Cedar Rapids have lost a few degrees off the high, which reached close to the low 40s. Now, for the rest of your evening, we'll see that temperature slowly decrease. We'll be close to 30 degrees for a low by tomorrow morning with those areas of patchy fog. So consider that if you do have early Tuesday travel plans. Now, it is, of course, Christmas week, many other things going on around eastern Iowa, too. We'll take a closer look at some of those events and what you can expect with meteorologist Joe Winters and today's forecast for fun.
As we approach Christmas Day, we are still having lots of fun things. One thing you may want to do with family and friends, take a little walk. Christmas Eve, 38, 40 on Christmas Day. By Thursday, day after Christmas, you get some shopping done early, 45 degrees. Let's take a look at a couple of colors of Christmas that came in. This from Justin Crawford. There's some beautiful displays across eastern Iowa. Love the multicolored lights, some beautiful lights as well, as we can see on the home in Cedar Rapids. This is from Vicki. Thanks for sending those in. If you still get some good shots, we'd like to share those through the end of the year. You can always do that through the UNews app, of course, on the First Alert Weather app at kcrg.com as well, keeping things looking like Christmas. Our ski report, maybe that's what your friends, family, and relatives are doing. As of today, here's how things look. 28-inch base at Chestnut, 18 runs open. Sundown, 21 runs open, 12-inch base. Of course, it's all machine groomed. Mount Cato, 16-inch base, 6 runs open. Heading to Cascade Mountain in Wisconsin, 36-inch base, 43 runs are open. Hawkeye Down still right now, and again on the 24th from 6 to 9, does have their very special Santa Village. Photos, crafts, coloring station, peppermint golf, holiday market might be something you want to take advantage of. Winds out of the east around 5 to 10. And our Christmas countdown, it stands at 1. It's almost time for Christmas Day, and a lot of fun to be had. Santa Tracker certainly does show some activity around the North Pole. We're expecting no problems for Santa's travel out and about across the world and in eastern Iowa, so his forecast for fun looks good as well.
Now, your First Alert forecast with meteorologist Corey Thompson.
What Joe just showed you, one day to go here until Christmas, and your Christmas Eve look does look pretty good if you've got some last minute shopping or starting to get together with family and friends. Not expecting the weather to be any trouble. 37 degrees for a high, so not as warm as perhaps initially expected several days ago, but the evolution of that forecast has been to bring the temperature down ever so slightly. A little bit of fog possible in the morning, and then we're watching out for some clouds to be pretty widespread. But otherwise, that's it on your First Alert too. We just highlight that fog potential, which is between about now and through Tuesday morning. But then by about mid-morning, things start to dissipate. We're expecting better conditions after that. View from our Decorah City Cam shows a little bit of wind out there, and you see our Decorah observation north at about 5 to 10 miles per hour. Same story across more of eastern Iowa, occasional little higher bursts of wind. We're going to keep it in that fairly light range over the next couple of days too. That's good news for people heading out on the road, as well as just people heading outdoors. It won't feel as cold with those winds staying light. We're currently at 34 in Decorah and Waterloo, 35 in Dubuque. Now, we did have a cold front pass through earlier today. A little area of low pressure brought precipitation mainly to our north. We did see some of that clip our northern zones earlier today, but many of us saw little to none. Now, through the rest of the night, clouds will continue to sag in behind this front. There was a little patch of clearing after the front passed by, but now we've seen those clouds get more and more common. And Pinpoint Futurecast keeps that trend going, the southern edge of that encompassing the entirety of the TV9 viewing area by tomorrow morning. Notice that there's little specks of snow or other precipitation that start to show up here over the course of the following 24 to 36 hours. We can't rule out a little bit of flurry activity or maybe a few areas of sprinkles during this time. Remember, a lot of this will be spent above freezing, so we're talking about liquid precipitation in many cases, but it does look like that will be relatively limited. Now, by tomorrow night, clouds still widespread on Christmas Eve night as Santa is making his arrival. Things should still be pretty clear of any sort of trouble. And as you head out and about on Christmas morning, if you're headed to see family then, clouds still there, precipitation still lacking. And that's the good news. We do see our winds start to shift, though, as we go through Christmas Day. And eventually that's going to start to push our temperatures upward. But it's going to take a little time. And with the clouds around, we're not expecting big variations in temperature as we head through the holiday. Now, tonight, we'll call your first alert forecast around 28 degrees in Charles City, 31 in Iowa City. It's going to take several hours to get there now that clouds have become pretty widespread. Don't forget about that fog, but early on Tuesday, we should see that fog diminish. Instead, we'll just keep it cloudy. 33 in Charles City, 33 in Manchester, but as warm as 36 in Mount Pleasant, and a few areas in the upper 30s compared to the coolest readings in the north. Now, overall, your Christmas forecast does involve those upper 30s on Tuesday and Wednesday, kind of a carbon copy in terms of our temperatures. Winds, though, staying very, very light. We're keeping those through the weekend, even as storm systems approach on Friday and Saturday, lacking much force. That will start to pull in those warmer temperatures, though, as those winds shift to the south. We're going to see a very warm air mass arrive by the time we get toward the end of the week. That comes with a couple of storm systems. The first arrives late on Thursday, probably more toward Thursday night, giving us the chance for some showers. It moves on, and then we see perhaps a little bit of a lull Friday night before another round of rain arrives by later Friday night into Saturday. So a couple of wet days in a row. Behind this system, we'll stay relatively mild on Sunday, but drier. And so if you're traveling home from a long holiday weekend, it does look like things will be in pretty good shape. Now, as we head toward the start of January, signals are a little bit mixed in terms of how cold, how warm it'll be. We have equal chances for those above or below normal temperatures, but it does look like the active weather pattern will stick around, and we keep the chance for some precipitation above normal, at least across a good portion of the Midwest. Great news to hear, though, is that travel condition still looks really good across the area, and we're not expecting much trouble. Now, this hasn't always been the case when we've been talking about Christmas weather. It's always, of course, an important time to watch. In past years, we've seen some stuff that has been fairly nasty in a few cases. We're especially talking about within the past few decades. In fact, looking back at the 1960s in your weather rewind, at least to start. We're going to cover a few Christmas years here. We did have a snowstorm that moved through and caused some pretty significant snow. Now, we did have what was eventually determined to be the whitest Christmas in history at that time. And yeah, that did cause some traffic trouble across parts of the state. Snowfall fortunately became lighter by the time we got toward Christmas Day, but still, highways were poor, and this storm system actually caused a lot of trouble. You can see that there was, some pretty heavy and hefty conditions to contend with. Blizzard conditions continued as traffic tried to head out for the holiday. Many vehicles were abandoned. In fact, the Des Moines police said almost 10,000 vehicles were abandoned during that time. Yeah, that's not necessarily what you want to see as you're heading into a very busy travel period. Unfortunately, some folks had to leave their vehicles. They were so stuck they had to run to nearby farmhouses out in rural areas and seek shelter there. Now, 15 people died in the storm in the state because of the cold conditions and the very difficult travel. Many more were injured in crashes. And so that's why hopefully we've learned some lessons from a system like that. Now, we did see some very bitter cold in 1983 leading up to the holiday of Christmas. We also saw blizzard conditions at times that caused travel to be very difficult then as well, and wind chills falling well below zero and temperatures staying below zero. We saw an average temperature across the state of 12.5 degrees below zero. That's highs and lows across a 3-day period. That's very cold, especially this early in the season. KCRG TV9's Lisa Scott reported on the trouble that travelers encountered.
It was a fierce struggle for Iowans today, and the weather almost always won. With winds gusting from 20 to 40 miles an hour, the wind chill factor for much of Iowa dipped to as low as 90 degrees below zero. Those temps, added to extremely limited visibility, brought travel to a virtual standstill. Meanwhile, the Iowa Highway Patrol urged travelers to stay put in what the National Weather Service called a life-threatening situation. Perhaps the worst news for many came when area churches were forced to cancel services on this Christmas Eve. St. Paul's Lutheran Church in Marion was one of the casualties due to furnace problems.
It's about 40 degrees in the nave of the church. It's a disappointment because people love the Christmas services with the traditional carols and so on.
This weather has undoubtedly caused many such disappointments, but staying inside is the best answer in a situation where it is better to be safe than sorry. Michelle Vonderhaar, TV9 Eyewitness News.
And it wasn't the only trouble that we saw in the 80s. Just a year before that, we had more trouble on the backside of Christmas. Now, wrapping up Christmas week, a lot of folks do stay a while at their family's place, and that can lead to some trouble if those systems arrive. Then a really intense storm brought actually quite a bit of different weather to Iowa on December 27th, 1982. We saw severe weather along the Mississippi River. Wind damage brought down a radio tower near Muscatine. Other wind gusts with this system recorded about 90 miles per hour. Now on the backside, the cold side of the system, freezing rain turned to snow, accumulated to at least a foot, and then wind gusts up to 70 miles per hour led toward gusts, or not gusts, but rather drifts of 6 to 10 feet of snow. And of course, that did a number on travel that year too for folks trying to get home from the holiday. Now this time, KCRG TV9's Michelle Vonderhaar has the report.
Much like this scene in Minneapolis, icy roads and huge drifts paralyzed the northwest part of Iowa today and left many towns without electricity. All interstates in western Iowa had blowing and drifting snow. Some were down to one lane, and a few roads in the extreme western part of the state were blocked. The eastern part of the state was a little luckier. We didn't have the snow, but we did have the winds. And if you tried to drive today, you may have had some of the same problems that truck driver Tom Larson encountered.
It's just terrible. You know, I got a 44-foot trailer and empty. It's just, you look in the mirror and it looks like it's going sideways down the road.
Many buses were canceled because of the weather.
If you're traveling west today, you're affected by the snow. Buses headed in that direction were only going as far as Des Moines. Now, buses coming in from the east were affected by the wind. Most of them were running a half an hour late.
And of course, all the wind provided for a hefty wind chill of 15 below zero. Lisa Scott, TV9 Eyewitness News.
Now, when we look back to recent Christmases, we've been in better shape. The recent history involves temperatures, well, in the 30s primarily. This is over the course of the last 70 years or so, but we've seen days that have been above 50. We've seen plenty that have been below 10. In fact, the side that is more favored is the cold one. Now, in terms of our warmest Christmas, we actually experienced this in a good portion of eastern Iowa just a couple years ago. 2019 was 58 in Cedar Rapids, 59 in Waterloo. It's the kind of weather you could go outside and enjoy. It was actually kind of sunny too, which for this time of year can be hard to come by, which we're going to find out in the next couple of days. And we were very cold not long before that either. The year 2000 ranks as the coldest in Cedar Rapids and Waterloo, with Waterloo reaching a low of 29 degrees below zero. The others were set in the 1800s in Dubuque at 19 below and Iowa City at 19 below in 1921. So we can get both extremes still this time of year in terms of the most amount of snow we've seen falling on Christmas Day. Well, we did get 7 inches of snow in Iowa City in 1909, and 1951 brought 7 inches of snow to the Waterloo area. Cedar Rapids and Dubuque a little bit less than that. This year, not expecting a repeat of that. Instead, we're going to keep conditions pretty quiet. We're looking at temperatures that will be in the 30s on your Tuesday and 38 degrees as we head toward Christmas Day. Does look like things will still be in pretty good shape there for our weather. And overall, we're expecting things to stay quiet. We really do want to emphasize that. Outside the chance of some fog early in the day, travel conditions will be in really, really good shape. For Thursday, similar story, but temperatures will start to warm. We'll be into the 40s on your Thursday, and actually close to the low 50s Friday and Saturday. Now, that rain chance we showed you just moments ago really picks up on Friday into Friday night. Saturday keeps that chance going as well. We may actually see a few that arrive later on Thursday, so if you have travel plans there, keep an eye on that. In terms of total precipitation with those two storm systems, we could be talking about up to ½ an inch across parts of the area. Not the heaviest rain, but certainly making up for some of the drier days we've seen this month. And then it moves on. After that, the next chance doesn't arrive until Tuesday next week. It's currently a slight chance as temperatures turn colder. Storm system looks to track across the central U.S. during this time frame. Its track and its intensity, of course, will be major factors in how this storm system plays out. If you have New Year's Eve plans, I'd say just keep an eye on it as that day grows closer, just because we're still several days away and some of those details could yet change. But it's overall just looking like a wintry pattern. Despite those 50s, we know that can happen this time of year, though it is certainly on the warmer side. Now, we will not be here tomorrow night or Christmas Day. We're taking a little bit of time away from First Alert Weather Now. Thursday and Friday, though, this week, we'll be back at the same exact time and place. Thank you for watching this evening. Hope you have a Merry Christmas and have a good night.